Oh, I'll shut the door.
Okay, I'll grab it. Okay, so here we are again. It's Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021. I am Margaret Major. I am the registered counseling therapist here at the After Trauma Empowerment Network, and I'm joined with Vida Woodworth, who is chairperson on our board of directors, and Kate Matthews is our technical director, who's also here with us today. And she's also actually a board member on our board of directors. So today we'll start with the diversity welcome, as we always do. And then we're going to just talk a little bit about the devastating news recently from British Columbia regarding the 215 children. And then after that, we're going to be joined by Garrett Gloade, who is from Millbrook First Nation. And Garrett's going to talk about drumming, do some drumming for us. Yes, so first we will start with our diversity welcome, so everyone can feel welcome. And thank you everybody who's joining us today. We always appreciate when you take time just to come and hang out with us for an hour. We greatly appreciate that. So I would like to welcome all women, men, transgender, and other identified individuals here today. I welcome everyone here who is a mother, father, sister, brother, auntie, uncle, cousin, son, daughter, grandmother, or grandfather. Welcome. I welcome people of all races, tribes, and descent. I welcome your bodies, your minds, and your energy. I welcome survivors and those who support them. I welcome all people single, married, partnered, dating, celibate, or involved in whatever sort of relationship is right for you. I welcome gay, lesbian, bisexual, heterosexual, queer, asexual, two-spirited, and others for whom none of the current labels fit. I welcome your emotions, your joy, your bliss, your rage, your hope, your disappointment, and your grief. I welcome everyone's special way of understanding and knowing the world, whether it is education that has been learned in schools, colleges, and universities, and/or the deep and profound school of life. I welcome those living with chronic medical conditions and disabilities, visible and invisible. I welcome your families, genetic and otherwise, those people who make our lives easier and gentler to be in. I welcome mystics, seekers, and believers of all kinds. I welcome people who identify as activists, community leaders, musicians, artists, group members, and those who don't. And finally, I'd like to welcome the ancestors who lived in this land where we are now. Welcome the spirits of Mi'kmaq, the natives who lived in this area before the Europeans came. I'd like to acknowledge them and welcome their spirits to this space. Everyone, welcome, and thank you again for being here. So before we get into quite a heavy topic, I just wanted to mention that our call for submissions, the artwork that we had, the I guess closing date for that was Monday, and we have our 12 pieces for our calendar, and we'll probably show those, I don't know, maybe in the next episode or so. But I just wanted to extend a heartfelt thank you to all the artists that submitted a piece for that kindfulness calendar, which will be a fundraiser for us starting in the fall, hopefully, if everything goes according to our plan. Yes. Okay, Vida, check-in time for you. How are you doing on this this sunny Wednesday?
I'm doing good. As usual, I guess it was a busy week full of lots of ups and lots of downs.
Yeah.
I guess overwhelmingly, my thoughts have been turned a lot to the news from Kamloops and from British Columbia with the announcement of the confirmation of the discovery of the 250 children who were buried very near to the residential school that's located there. And for me, it wasn't a shock to hear that they had discovered bodies. I guess I had been privileged to have conversations with some people who were either survivors of the residential schools or who were family members and who had talked about knowing that these kinds of things had happened. And like a lot of things connected to the residential schools, of course, there was a lot of denial that it had happened, and a lot of people, talking about that it was made up and or imagined or dreamed or whatever. But with this announcement, I guess it was confirmation of these stories were the truth, and that this had happened. And along with all the other abuses and trauma and horrific things that had happened in the residential schools, we now have confirmation that there were children who died during the time there and who were secretly buried on the property. And for those families who had children who didn't return, there was always that, what did happen to them? Did they run away? Were they able to get away and didn't know how to come home? I mean, I can't imagine the questions and the wondering and the not knowing how big of an impact that would have been. And now to know that for many families, that their loved one is maybe one of the children buried there. For a lot of people, this was the first time that they had even heard of this possibility. And so for a lot of people, it was a big shock, just because they hadn't even imagined that this kind of thing had happened. And I think now people are starting to wonder, and has this happened at any other sites? Will we find evidence of other children who died during their time at the residential schools? And whether that was due to illness, due to violence, or any other way, the fact that it happened and it was hidden says a lot. And, I've heard people, trying to say, well, they maybe got typhoid fever or, smallpox or whatever. And yes, they may have gotten ill, some of them, but their families should have been notified. And, and as we know, the proper medical care was not given in the residential schools. And so, the excuses even today are still, unfortunately, prevalent, and people are still talking about them. So I've had a lot of discussions with friends and family and people, and just trying to, as someone who is from European descent, to take that responsibility, but I guess more so to do something that's going to make a difference, not just to say it happened and acknowledge it, but to actually do something that's going to make a difference. and not just one thing. It's going to take many things. And yeah, so, you know, I'm wearing an orange shirt. I wore it on Monday as well. And even my 82-year-old mother wore an orange shirt. And she commented as we were in Truro for essential reasons on Monday. She said, you know, I thought I'd see a lot more orange shirts. And we didn't see a lot of people out and about, but it was interesting. We were probably 2 people out of, I don't know how many that had them on, but there weren't,
Yeah.
we didn't see a lot of orange that day when we were around. So anyway, it's something that I hope we're going to continue to talk about, as hard as and as difficult as it would be. And somebody said to me, you know, I, as someone who was of European descent, said, you know, I don't know why I have to feel guilty for something that my ancestors did hundreds of years ago. And you know, I've thought about this a lot, and I thought, you know, maybe rather than feeling guilty, we should think about feeling responsible, and responsible for doing something now to make a difference, for responsible for trying to make sure it doesn't happen again, and responsible for acknowledging the truth about what did happen. And, you know, we've heard people discussing whether or not this is something that should be called genocide. And, you know, even on the way here, I had a discussion about the Catholic Church refusing to raise or lower their flags. And, you know, where other organizations, whether they're federal or just businesses, have done that. You know, and again, it's taking that responsibility, for admitting when wrong has been done, and responsibility for trying to do whatever we can do to make a difference, so that, again, it doesn't happen. And, you know, even today, you know, we're still hearing stories. The woman in Quebec who filmed as she was dying, the nurses who were treating her with racist and abusive language, and because she was Indigenous. And the many, 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 many stories, sadly, that we hear across the country of Indigenous people who are being treated badly and have extreme violence used against them just because they are Indigenous. You know, we say this stuff happened a long time ago, but every day it's still happening. And so, you know, we need to take that responsibility and work together under the guidance of the Indigenous peoples that affected. You know, they are the people who should be talking and not helping us, but guiding us to make sure that whatever we're doing is being, you know, guided by them, so that it's not just somebody's great idea yet again that really isn't relevant and isn't going to make a big difference. So anyway, that's kind of what my week has been. And as hard as it is, I want to continue to have these kinds of conversations and have these difficult discussions with anybody, whether it's someone I know, someone in my family, or a stranger. Yeah. So yet again, I always have a lot to say, but
there's such important stuff to say, Vida. And
but
you say
I think
so well.
This is something that I want to talk a lot about as much as I can.
I do too.
Yeah.
And it's such a heavy topic. It is so heavy. Heavy isn't even a big enough word to describe it. It's like I can't. I like Vida have been struggling with this since I heard the news. I was just saying to Vida before we came on that when I first heard this, it felt like somebody whacked my core with you know, a 4x4. And it hasn't left yet. It's still there. It's just this feeling. It's just unfathomable that these things happened, and they did. Like, this is real. And yeah, I'm gonna let Vida do a lot of the talking, because I feel like I'm right on the verge of something.
Yeah.
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 And I do just want to mention about transgenerational trauma. So that term is kind of used interchangeably with intergenerational and generational trauma. And just as the name says, it's trauma that's passed down through generations. So just like genetic conditions or medical conditions can be passed down, genetic traits or eye color or height, or, trauma can be passed down through generations, genetically and through behavior as well, just because of unresolved trauma and how we've learned together, and we're still learning about the impacts of trauma and how that affects a person. It gets passed down through generations, and it will continue to get passed down until it is resolved. And so many of our people, our communities, our Indigenous peoples, our Black, African, Canadian, Nova Scotians, the slavery, the Holocaust. Generational trauma is experienced in so many people. It's something that we're starting to learn more about. It was first observed in Holocaust survivors, and we've been learning more and more about it ever since. And I strive to continue to learn as much as I can, because resolving trauma is how we live well. It's how we live healthy. It's how we live respectful. And I think I think that's all I'm going to say about that, but we'll talk more in depth about the intergenerational or transgenerational trauma at a later time, because I really am interested in talking with Garrett and hearing what he has to share with us today. And I'm not sure, did you want to read that poem before?
I think so. And
Okay.
I know you usually cover this, but I'm going to talk about it just as
Yeah.
a reminder to our listeners
Okay.
and watchers, that this topic and the things that people are watching in the news or hearing in discussions, even just witnessing it because we're talking about it and hearing it, it may not have happened to us, and we may not have had anything similar happen to us. It can trigger us to, remember things, or to feel, as Margaret said, she feels as if somebody has punched her in the stomach, and that muscle spasm that you would get when that happens is still there. And she's carrying that around with her. And there may be many people who, when hearing about trauma, and in particular hearing about the things we've just talked about, may be triggered. And to just be aware that, it is I guess, for lack of a better word, it's normal for someone to, even though they haven't experienced that trauma, to, when talking about it or hearing other people talk about their stories, it may trigger us. And so if you find yourself being, teary-eyed or crying or angry, or, very emotional, very sad, anything that's out of the norm for your, the way you were before this was covered, that could be a trigger for you. And to know it is normal to have that happen, and it's important that you find a way to do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And that might be, you know, just talking to someone you trust. It could be a family member or a friend, a coworker. It may be a therapist or someone that you've been working with, or you may decide that this is a time that maybe you would like to do something like start therapy and work some of the issues through. But please know that it's okay to ask for that help, and it's okay. You know, you're not doing anything wrong by reacting to this. It would be unusual, I guess, if you didn't react in any way or it didn't affect you in some way. So, you know, as we're going through tonight and any other night, you know, please do what you need to do to take care of yourself.
Right.
If you find, you know, that you're being triggered, and we're giving you some ideas with music and art and you know, in the many other ways that people, you know, do their own self-care, from taking a nice warm bath to going for a run, playing with your dog, to having a good laugh, and many things that people do. So please do that if you need to.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share this poem. It was sent to me by a dear friend, Leanna, and there is no title. We couldn't find a title for it. But the person who wrote the poem is named Abigail Echo Hawk. And this was probably something she wrote after the announcement was made that the 215 bodies had been located, because it includes that. So I'm going to read it. And after, maybe just take a few minutes just for everybody to sort of think about the poem and gather yourself for our guest. So, when they buried the children, what they didn't know, they were lovingly embraced by the land, held and cradled in a mother's heart. The trees wept for them. With the wind, they sang morning songs their mothers didn't know to sing, bending branches to touch the earth around them. The Creator cried for them, the tears falling like rain. Mother Earth held them until they could be found. Now our voices sing the morning songs with the trees, the wind, light sacred fire, ensure they are never forgotten as we sing justice.
Oh.
There. I think it says a lot. And yeah, if anyone wants to find it, if you want to Google the author, Abigail Echo Hawk. And when we did that, this was the first thing that came up, was this poem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you could most certainly read it again or share it, or even just have a copy to remember.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Margaret.
Thank you, Vida. Now we're going to have Garrett join us. I just need to, there we go. I need to unmute his mic. There. Hi, Garrett.
Hello.
Pretty heavy topic you're joining us with today. It's a pretty heavy topic. Yeah.
Well, you know, definitely heavy topic. Something that I'm well versed in, though. In a survivor of intergenerational trauma due to not the residential school system. Well, yes, the residential school system, but also the Indian day school system. So I totally get it. And, you know, I do acknowledge and I do appreciate you guys wearing your orange shirts. That's the first thing I know when both of you came up, and we appreciate it as the Indigenous population across Canada and the United States. We fully acknowledge that, and thank you guys for being understanding. And I guess the term we're going to use, allies, be being very good allies to understand the atrocities that happen with these school systems. You know, when it came to these schools, and our people, our aunts, our uncles, our parents, our grandparents have been speaking about, you know, the things that had happened in these schools for years, you know. And one thing that we have to know, that this didn't just happen hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
It's very recent history. I was born when the last residential school closed. The last Indian day school that closed was in the early 2000s. So this is very recent history, and it's something that we've been saying over and over again. And you can only imagine how you guys are feeling today. We have generations of that feeling. And right now, when you see the uproar of people, and a lot of it is the younger generation. It's the generation that I'm a part of, you know, I want to say 40 and under, that are really speaking out about it. And it's even the younger ones who are being more vocal and more acting towards it. And they have every right to. You know, those 215 children, those beautiful souls that were found, is only a small fraction of what can be found in the hundreds of schools that were placed across Canada. You know, to think how much further it's heartbreaking. But again, those are the stories that our ancestors, those are the stories our aunts, uncles, our grandparents, our parents have been speaking about for years. So now it's the release of that frustration. Now people understand, now people get it. And it's a good feeling. It's a bad feeling that that so many children had to die in one spot. Now we just before I come on here, me and my wife, we're good partners in a lot of things. You know, we do art together and stuff like that. Just before I came on here, we watched a video, and it's going to be aired on Anne with an E. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Anna Green Gables, and it's gonna spark this whole conversation about residential schools and what our people had to go through. They're going to mention Halifax. They're going to mention the Mi'kmaq Nation. They're going to mention people's names and stuff in that show. And it's just going to give you a fraction, just a little bit, and one story of one woman and her journey in those schools compared to many. You know, and even like on the topic of this, you know, what really hit me the hardest was a story. Her name is Irene Eves, I want to say, and it's a story out in Saskatchewan. It was one of the last residential schools that closed. She told the story of a young Indigenous woman. They're saying that she was between the ages of 8 and 12 at this time. She gave birth to a child that was the father was actually a priest of one of the schools. They took that child, ripped her from her hand, and they threw that child in an incinerator, in a furnace, to allow that little baby to scream and just basically die and turn to ash. So those are very real things amongst experimentation, amongst many other things. And each and every one of us here in my community, as well as my wife's community and other communities, we all have a story to tell, whether it is a family member, whether it is your own story, just from experiencing a traumatic event that happened to another person that person had to do on you. I'm one of those. And so on. So the intergenerational trauma is very much felt throughout our people. And, you know, you got to understand that we're done with it. We are finished with it. Like, and for as long as we've been forced to listen, to learn a way of life that was forced on our people due to these schools. Now it's time for everyone else to listen to us, to believe us, and sit down and listen for as long as we listened, that we're forced, you know, and then that's the big thing. But before we go any further into the drum, so me and my wife, we kind of, like I mentioned, not kind of, but we do artwork together. And you know, on this topic of the residential schools in the current findings of those 215 children, me and my wife, we work with a talent company called Offsite Talent. I'm not too sure if you guys heard of Andy Hines. He's a Grammy-nominated music video director, or filmographer, and so.
Yeah.
So we work closely with Andy Hines as well as others within the province of Nova Scotia, and we started a project that is also in partnership with Nike, and we started developing Beat It Air Force Ones. We started beating the Nike check on them using MAAT designs and MAAT artwork. Me and my wife collaborate on every single piece, and just today we actually released this pair.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oh, I got goosebumps, Garrett. Oh,
yeah, so it's
powerful.
children,
Oh.
6C Nike Air Force, fully Beat It. And this year will be put on display. We're currently doing a display somewhere in Halifax. I can't tell you where.
No.
It's of a lot of high traffic. So maybe it's going to be placed in there, but the end all be all, if they place somethon at that Kamloops residential school site, we're hoping to send this there to kind of be a part of and bring awareness to the whole issue.
Yes.
Again, the beginning, 250 children are the beginning of what could be thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank
Yes.
you. And what was that therapeutic for you and your wife to kind of work on that?
Very much. Well, my wife has been going through a very tough time right now. Over the past couple of weeks, there was a very bad incident that happened in her home community. My wife is from Listigouche, Quebec, which is on the border of New Brunswick and Quebec, and a very traumatic event happened there, and she's kind of been torn because she hasn't been able to travel home lately due to the current situation and it's been very frustrating. And then, you know, to hear of these 215 children was kind of like the icing on the cake, sort of speak, and really the tipping point. But working on this pair of shoes together has been very therapeutic for her. She's released a lot of emotions. Yeah. I myself, however, you know, dealing with death at a very young age, it is something that I became very numb to, especially now that I'm going to be 36 in a couple of days. And I can talk a little bit more about, you know, my experiences and my losses, my triumphs, and what I'm still working on today a little bit further. But for her, it was very therapeutic. She released a lot. We've been doing as much as we can to bring awareness, using our social media platforms and so on. So overall, it's been very uplifting because so many people have been so supportive of you know, a lot of things that are going on in today's world. Yeah. You know. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed your pin, the orange shirt pin.
Yeah.
It's Beat It.
Yeah, my wife made that actually.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. So I was sitting here and she kind of brought it over when the camera was off and she was like, here, put this up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I guess that I'll introduce myself formally now.
Okay.
So, Gwe, Jalaso Tigninda Wisi Garrett Gloade, Delawi Wego Bekwidik for Millbrook First Nation. So, hello and welcome everyone. My name is Garrett Gloade. I come from the community of Millbrook First Nation. When I say Wego Bekwidik, it means where the tidal waters end. Where the tidal waters end. So that is in direct translation to our territory here. Here in Truro and surrounding. So that's been born and raised here, 36 years. My father, his name is Garrett Gloade. My mother is Shirley Denny. My mother is a fluent speaking Mi'kmaq woman, reads and writes, so which is a very rare commodity, and especially in our community. And I guess I'm going to start from my early life. So early life, and I guess this is in line with most Indigenous people, is that we grew up very tough. I grew up with a single mother. She was a single mother of 4. At that time, 3 children. She grew up in a tough household, so I can only imagine her parenting skills kind of came from her household. So she was a very tough woman. Growing up, I didn't give her the respect that she deserves, but definitely today, it is probably a bond that can never be broken anymore. I grew up a very angry child, I should say, and the drum has definitely carried me into a different way, especially in my adult years. So I was born on June 6, 1985, here in Millbrook. At the time when I was 6 months old, I guess when I was born, I should say, I always say that the world's a cruel place, but the world never actually really wanted me here, So when I was born, I almost died. I was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, and I came out blue. They brought me back, and 6 months later, when I was on my walker, I actually fell down a flight of stairs and I cracked my skull open.
Oh.
Yeah, and almost died. By the time I was 3 years old, I had my first sexual experience. And this was due to the residential school system. So when I say I'm a survivor, this is a very traumatic incident that kind of came to over the last few years. I started remembering more detail about that incident. And it's something that I worked through and still work through today. And my wife has been by my side the entire way. And I thank her, very much for being by my side, even when I wasn't being the most pleasant, the most caring, or for that matter. My father was very abusive towards me and my sisters, physically, not sexually, but physically. He was abusive towards my mother. He grew up as an alcoholic, and a lot of that attributes to the Indian day school system. So he experienced a lot in the day school system. So when you compare the residential school system to the Indian day school system, it's very linear. The only thing is that in the Indian day school system, they were able to go home. That's the only thing, the only difference. My experience when I was 3 years old came from one of my father's friends. And it's definitely tough to talk about today. I'm much more composed compared to where I was last year. I was speaking about the issue because I could become more confident. And I know that is not who I am. That's not who I was growing up to be. Was I angry at the world? Excuse my language, but fucking right I was. Who wouldn't be when you had to experience what you had to experience? Right. So when my brother was born when I was 8 years old. So like growing up as the baby of my family, And then there's a new child in the mix. All the attention that was directed towards you that is now gone and is directed at this newborn baby. I turned a lot of my aggression towards that baby, to my little brother. I would fight him and stuff like that. And I think about it now as like 8 years old. And then I would like flick him on the forehead and stuff like that. And I never realized at that time that I was being abusive towards my brother. And then when he turned a year and a half, when he was about a year and a half, 2 years old, that's when I first struck him. And I was 10 at the time. So I was very much more grown than my brother. So, my aggression, is that intergenerational trauma that you feel as a person, you then directed towards others. I grew up being a bully in school, turning my aggression towards others, people not of my skin type and so on. So, when it comes to, people in that I guess that hidden racism that a lot of people feel, I get it because, a lot of things happen to our people and we turned our aggression on others, and that's the intergenerational trauma part. By the time I was 14 years old, I was near charge for attempted murder, due to being involved with the wrong people at the wrong time. And this happened at I guess, do you guys remember the exhibition here in Truro?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There was an incident that happened here, and it was very racially charged, the incident. So this is kind of something that we all tend to grow up with. It was a racially charged event that happened, and this one man just came up to a group of us and out of nowhere and said, "I will take all you, fucking Indians on," called us fucking wagon burners and every name in the book. And, when someone is directing those terms at you, you have nothing but anger, hate, and you want to fight back. And it just so happened there was eight of us on one guy. And I think about it now, and thankfully this man lived. And then he, when he came to, he apologized. He forgave every single one of us. And and with his words alone, he said, "I started it. I started the fight. I didn't have to, but I started it." And charges were later dropped. So it was just one of those things. And for me to be in that group, definitely kind of made me realize at that 14, that maybe that wasn't the life for me. Still at that age, I was still very disrespectful to my mom. I would talk her down, call her every name. At a very young age, I was then left homeless. She kicked me out. She couldn't handle me. And I ended up leaving home. I was couch surfing from one house to one house. And then to boot it all off, being in school and being told from, teachers, principals, and so on that I wouldn't amount to anything in my life. And, just constantly being talked down to. I was then forced to live with my father, which was bad. My father had his own demons that he had to deal with. It didn't take until this incident where he kind of had to settle down, because he used to drink a lot of hard liquor. And I know people are like, "Oh no, hard liquor. Everyone talks about hard liquor and it's not for them." And they switch to beer. But all in all, alcohol shouldn't be in anyone, doesn't matter. It's not a good escape for anybody.
It's a poison.
So I got into a fight with my father, a fist fight, actually, a full-on fist fight. He then kicked me out. So at that time, I was living in Escazone, which is a community that I'm not familiar with. Although my mother is from there and I have family there, it is a place that I never really grew any bond to. So roaming the streets for 2 days on my own in Escazone was very scary for me. couch surfing again from, you know, from some friends that I had, you know, and then I later was able to talk to my mother, and my mother asked me to come back home. So I was around 15, 16 at that time. Yeah, 16. At that time, I had my first suicidal incident where I tried hanging myself, actually. So like, you know, I was falling down the rabbit hole pretty quick. And I actually attempted suicide 3 times by the time I was 19. And I kind of realized, you know, at that moment that, you know, maybe I have a bigger purpose in this life than trying to take my own. And then that's when I found the drum, actually. And I gotta say, this is where the turning point for me, you know, to self-respect, to respect for others, and to respect my culture. So you got to remember, I come from a community that has, well, still today it has culture, but back then it had absolutely zero culture. The only people I knew who spoke Mi'kmaq were my mother and my aunts, but they weren't from this community. You know, they brought that to this community, and when it came to drumming, when it came to dancing or anything, our community members here, our people, would look down on it. And that is the impacts of the residential school system as well. That everything that we did, you know, from our spirituality to our songs, our dances, to everything that we did that was Indigenous, was always looked down on. And yeah, so but it's like when I turned 19, going into 20, the drum was something that kind of turned my life around, so to speak. And I'll just bring this out. So this here is my personal hand drum. And when I found the drum, it was like a moment of triumph, I have to say. So there was a group that started here, and at that time we were called a tribe called Mi'kmaq, and it was a brand new powwow singing group. When I was younger, I was always drawn to the drum. Like, I've been to powwows and stuff like that. Powwows were just starting here in our community as well as other neighboring communities. So it was something that was very new to our people. When I was younger, when I would hear the drum, I would always find my foot tapping and stuff like that, moving to the beat of the drum. When I had my first experience sitting around a large drum with my brothers at that time, was an overwhelming feeling of pride, pleasure, honor, also mixed in with a little bit of sorrow, guilt, shame, you know, because of what I learned here in my community. You know, the drum was something that was never, ever going to do anything for our people. Our language was never, ever going to do anything for our people. And our culture was never going to do anything for our people. So when I sat around that drum, I remember the first time I was so horrible. I was so offbeat. But, you know, they never judged me. They never judged me. And I'll always remember that.
Yeah.
And just like anything with practice, you know, you get better at it and so on. So I started singing with the tribe called Mi'kmaq, was able to travel, you know, as far as Ontario. I've never been out of, you know, Nova Scotia, and maybe to Moncton, New Brunswick. I think that's the furthest I've been at that time in my life.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like a dream that a lot of us have, is to travel, just to get out of, not only our community, but also our province. So that's, to be a Mi'kmaq, young Mi'kmaq man, realizing that, holy crap, I'm traveling halfway across the country just to do something that I love to do. This is amazing. It was my first experience being outside of, New Brunswick. It was exhilarating. I felt free. After A Tribe Called Mi'kmaq, I started singing with a group, and I'm sure everyone heard or knows Eastern Eagle, out of Sebaganagity. They're very good friends of mine. I have a lot of respect and love for that group. Was able to travel across not only Canada, but across North America, simply doing what I love to do.
Wow.
with a group of great guys. So and then and with that came with a lot of teachings. A lot of the teachings that I've learned come from Eastern Eagle and my experience with them. A lot of the people who I met along the way and a lot of my teachers came from them. I then left Eastern Eagle and took what I've learned and I brought that back to the community. And right now I help mentor a group of youth known as Iron Tide, just to show them just a little bit of what I know and what I've experienced to share with them, because my hopes for them one day is to be able to travel and do what I was able to do just because of the drum alone. I also sing part-time with a group that is known as Cree Confederation. I met them, I want to say 5 years ago. And I used to be the coordinator of our powwow here in Millbrook, and I brought them one year. I gotta add in my wife, because she's the one that's like, bring another group here, and I was like, yeah, you're right. So she mentioned Cree Confederation, and I made it happen, and brought them here and created an everlasting bond with a great group of guys. And then they invited me into their drum, which is a huge honor. And I also met a lot of other artists as well to learn more of the drum. So the teaching of the drum is one thing that we have to realize, and I'm gonna hide my face a bit while I talk about it.
Yeah.
So the teaching of the drum, we have to realize that it's the circle is important because it represents the circle of life. The beat of the drum represents the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And in our culture, there's always two parts to everything. It's the women and the man, the womanly half of all things, the manly half of all things. And the beat represents the heartbeat of Mother Earth. When we sing, our voices project up and outward so the creator can hear them. So however you want to interpret that, that's up to you. When we sit around this drum, we're all considered equals. No one is better than one another. We all have our roles. We all create the sound of that drum. We create the sound of the songs. So we all have our role, our very own specific role, but we're all equal when it comes to that sound. The spirit of the drum, there's many shapes, there's many sizes, there's many drums that are across the world, and especially in Turtle Island. And one of my mentors, his name is Randy Wood. He always tells me, you just got to remember that there's only one spirit to that drum. It's only one drum spirit. And every time you sing, you got to honor that spirit in any which way you know how. How the drum was born, and a lot of us have to remember, is that the drum was born by the woman. So the gifts that we receive all come from a woman, and her name is White Buffalo Cav Woman. And she presented a drum to the man, and she foretold everything that was going to happen to our people. The residential schools, colonialism, war, the loss of our language, the loss of our teachings. loss of our songs. And she presented this drum to a man and said, take this drum. When our people go through what they're going to go through, you have to bring this drum out. And by that drum, not only is it going to heal our people and bring our people back together, because for hundreds of years, our people have been divided, and even still today, which is the impacts of colonialism. But it's also going to bring others who want to learn, who want to understand, who want to be there, to be a part and join in on that circle. When we sing, the men do the work. We beat that drum. The men sit around, we do the work. The women stand behind the men and they ensure that we're doing what we're meant to be doing. So that's the meaning behind the drum. So if it wasn't for this tool, I gotta honestly say I would not be here today. It literally saved my life. It literally saved my marriage. It saved me from my community. It saved me from myself. And it's something that I owe a debt of my entire life to. It's a tool that I will always use, whether I'm feeling down and out and when I'm happy. My duty as a singer is to bring healing to others and bring healing to our people. So sometimes when you see like a funeral or anything like that, it's my duty to be there to sing for the families, and so on. But yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, I've learned so much from you, Garrett. Wow, you have such an extraordinary story.
Thank you.
And the way that you spoke of the drum, you convey your respect and honor for that drum in how you spoke about it. Absolutely. How before you came on, Vida talked a little bit about being triggered in any way and practicing self-care. Do you have any words in regards to that self-care that we need to do for ourselves?
Yeah, for me, being and knowing my experience growing up and what I've been through, again, I'm just one story, and I'm intergenerational when it comes to the trauma, but my trauma was very thick. I always say very thick. It's tough, and it's tough for other people to hear. For me, it was going through the emotions. We come from a culture where, we look at our men and we automatically see warriors. And when we think of warriors, we think of, the prime universal soldier, Jean-Claude Van Damme type of soldier. No expression on your face. You kind of handle your shit and you just go through it. For me, it's going through the emotions, acknowledging your trauma, knowing it is very real. It is the thing that can really set you free. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for the things that you have done and how you acted out on your trauma. Forgive yourself for the things that you cannot change. That stuff happened already. You can go and you can you can go out and you can apologize for the things you've done to certain people. And if they don't forgive you, then, at least and you can forgive yourself for the things that you have done. More importantly, the things that happened to you, forgive that person because you just don't understand what they have been through as well. It's taken me a long time to realize that. What I've been through when I was just a young child, very innocent. For a long time, I was very angry about it. I was angry at that person, and I didn't even realize it until now when I'm 36, going on 36. I can now think of that person and just smile for them, and, you know, just pray that, you know, where they're at today, they're okay. He's no longer here on this earth, but wherever he's at now, I pray that he's okay, and that he acknowledges and accepts the hurt that he has done, and I hope he forgives himself wherever he's at. And that's the concept, you know. And we look at religion and other things, and, you know, traditions. You know, a lot of wars and a lot of, you know, conflicts happen because people believed in a different way. But when you take certain prayers and you transfer them all into one universal language, the concept remains the same, that we treat each other as equal. No one is better or greater than the next person, that we learn to forgive, you know, love thy neighbor, you know, and so on. We forget about that because we're so stuck into today's world, or what we think the concept of world actually is. You know, but one person who I listen to quite a bit is Russell Brand. He's pretty, I don't know, he's pretty eccentric, that guy, but
Yeah.
I guess what the young fellas say, or the young people say, is now that he's woke, you know. And he was talking about some certain things that are going on in the world today, and he's just like, you know, we're all waiting for this world to go back to normal. That's bloody awful anyway. And he's right.
Yeah.
We sit here and we think about what hell is, or I think we're living in hell, you know, to be honest. You know, war, famine, jealousy, hate, greed, envy, all these things that, you know, the book tells us about, is going to send us to a place that we don't want to go to. But yet this whole world, the foundation of this world, is built on that, you know. And just, we have to understand that.
Yeah.
How about you, Vida? Do you have any questions?
Oh, probably a lot of questions.
I know.
I just wondered if you had any other, I'm sure your entire culture is important, but in addition to your drumming, are there any other aspects of your culture that you have found you've been able to connect to since drumming?
Yeah, so I guess myself, I don't call myself a knowledge keeper, but I'm a person that reads in depth of our history. I was able to make a career out of the history of our people here. I used to work at the Millbrook Cultural and Heritage Center, where the large statue of Glooskap is. I worked there for 10 years. And that is also another part of my life, to connect and understand the struggles our people had endured. Made me a stronger person, made me want to be a stronger person, to honor those ones who came before us. As well as, you know, taking that and just kind of rolling with it, I guess. Beadwork. So I do beadwork. I make drums. So I became an artist due to my culture. So like there's other means behind what I do. I don't want to kind of gloat and say I've done this and done that, because who I am. But I gotta honestly say that when me and my wife, we come together and we create something, something very beautiful. And I am gonna say that one of our shoes went to a social media star. Her name is Ashley Collingbull, who was Miss Universe, the first Indigenous Miss Universe.
Yes.
Back in 2018 or 2017, I'm not sure. But she has a pair of our shoes too. So I gotta say that's definitely one of the highlights so far. many other people who I have met, events that I was to be a part of, people who I currently do, and both me and my wife, we currently do today. Working with our good friend there, Andy Hines, has been, I don't even have the words for it, because he's just been amazing. And, when you think about someone who's in the world that he is in, he is very humble. And when it came to this whole thing with the residential schools and everything else that, that sparks him, as well as Jesse, the two people who me and my wife work with offsite talent, they've been very receptive and very, very open and very compassionate when it comes to everything. Because they even say too, like the history books, when it comes to the history books, they make it seem like this happened hundreds to thousands of years ago. But no, very, very, very recent. Yeah. And that's the scary thing, because, a lot of people still believe it's been that long. Yeah. Yeah. Any more?
Thank you. I'm not sure if it's possible or not, Garrett, but are you able to just do a little bit of drumming, or just something, a favorite piece of yours, or just something that you feel comfortable?
Just thinking of a song. So the group, Cree Confederation, I'm going to sing in Cree, but not in Mi'kmaq. Okay. And this song that I sing with, the song was made by one of my best friends, and he made it for his son. And it's called Jove. That's the name of his son. And when I first heard the song, it was something that was very powerful, and it speaks of him being very thankful to have this child, to have this son in his life, that he'll always honor this child, and he'll do what he can to honor this child the best way that he knows how. His name is Dickie Baptiste. He's from Red Pheasant Cree Nation in Saskatchewan. And this is his song. So hopefully I don't butcher it.
Wow.
Thank you. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. I could listen all day. I could just sit and listen.
Yeah, it's amazing that, how music translates, no matter what language is used. It somehow will translate through the layers of I guess the rhythm and the emotion that comes from the song and from the beating of the drum and the fact that it is the beating of the heart. And
it's they always say music is a universal language. You just it's definitely something that has been very therapeutic in my life. My wife, she's a dancer, so she understands the movement of the music. For me, I just understand the flow, I guess. I'm not really. What's crazy is that me and my wife, we're both in the powwow world. I'm a singer, she's a dancer. We actually never met. We never met because of powwow. We actually met through artwork. We would all paths, I guess. And, I met her until when it came. So that kind of coincidence, and I sang alongside her father, and I didn't even know that was her father. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, their life.
Yeah. Well, it's after 7, Garrett. I just want to say thank you again. A huge heartfelt thank you for taking time, for sharing your extraordinary story with us. Oh. I hope maybe we can have you back again sometime. Just to, maybe. If you're not too busy.
I'm always.
Yeah. And could I just thank you again for sharing not just a story, but your personal story, and helping, I think, absolutely helping me to understand, how that intergenerational trauma filters through and how it affects people, even though it was, long time ago. But that things are still happening today. And I think that people really need to stop and realize that, yes, it happened a long time ago, but it's still happening. There are things happening every day. And we need to do something, not just talk about it and put up a sign or whatever, but we actually need to do things to help change it so it doesn't continue to happen.
Exactly. And is just education and understanding. One thing is, like I said, we've for the past 300 plus years, we've been forced to learn to live, to walk amongst settlers, to live the way they saw it fit. Something that was very taxing and impactful on our people. Now it's like time you start learning the way that we had to learn, not forcefully, but just do it in a good way and understand, take the time to be compassionate, take the time to understand, and because a lot of the traumas that are felt through the impacts of these schools, it then leads to, missing and murdered Indigenous women,
Yes.
I never even touched base on that. That's My sister is Tanya Jean Brooks, and she was murdered.
Yes.
So that's a whole nother story, which is why I didn't touch base on it. But here and I think about everything, we've been through our shit.
It
was my everything.
I think too, the settlers came and they tried to force a way of life on the Indigenous peoples because they thought it was better. And in sharing your story, one thing that's very evident and very obvious is that in getting back in touch with your culture, and in particular for you with the drum, it's what saved your life. So it wasn't our forced ways, it was going back to what you already knew. It
very much is healing. And you could see that ripple happening to our youth. Our youth are becoming more aware, acknowledging their culture, dancing, singing, being proud of who they are, instead of what they think public should see them as,
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Garrett. I'm just going to do our closing loving kindness meditation, but you can stay if you want, or you can continue on with your evening. But thank you, thank you, and please take good care of yourself.
You as well.
Okay, thank you, Garrett. Okay, wow, that was I could talk and listen. I could more listen than talk.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm thinking maybe we could invite his wife to come on.
I was thinking that. Yes.
And you know, it's nice outside. We could
Yeah.
see some dancing, because I just get
Yes.
lost in it. It takes over me, and
Yes.
I can
And
do it
even
all day.
their artwork together, the beading and the other artwork.
Oh,
Yeah, there's
that
so many
sneaker,
things. So,
the
oh,
sneaker vibe,
yeah,
my heart.
I know.
Okay, so
It's,
we're a little bit over time. Thank you for everyone who's hanging out with us over time. That's okay. We're going to do our loving kindness meditation just so we can leave on a loving kindness note. Vida, do you want me to go back there and close that curtain for you? Or are you okay with that?
no, I'm good. The sun's
Okay.
shining in. It's not too hot. It's actually quite
Well, it
nice
looks
in
like
here.
it might be bright on you, like in your
No,
eyes, but I guess
no,
it's to your back,
it's
isn't it?
yes, and it's on the screen, but it's fine.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
yeah, and the temperature's great.
Okay. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee here. Okay, so just be in a comfortable position, just where you're sitting. If you're lying down, just allow yourself just to be comfortable. Allow yourself to just put all your stresses and worries up on the shelf just for the next couple of minutes. And you can pick it back down when we're finished. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable to do so. Just hearing the sounds in the space that you're in. Noticing yourself in this present moment. You don't need to control your breathing in any way. You may notice that your breathing will start to slow down. Begin to feel any tension you might be holding in your body. Begin to feel that tension start to drain away from you. Feel it drain away from your eyes, your face, your neck, down your shoulders, down through your body, and out through your toes. Now imagine a loving white light entering your feet, traveling up to your body, up to your stomach, your chest, and your arms. Feel it almost bursting through your heart and your fingers and through the crown of your head. When you feel embraced in that love, silently repeat the following words to yourself. May I be free from all harm. May I be safe and protected. May I be free from all suffering. May I be happy. May I be free from all disease and physical pain. May I be healthy and strong. May I be able to live in this world happily, peacefully, joyfully, and with ease. Now turn your thoughts to this vast world, the huge world with all its living creatures. Continue to feel that love in your body as you silently say, may all beings be free from all harm. May all beings be safe and protected. May all beings be free from all suffering. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from all disease and physical pain. May all beings be healthy and strong. And may all beings be able to live happily, peacefully, joyfully, and with ease. Send your love as far out around the world as possible. And just imagine that energy traveling through the air. Feel yourself in this present moment, in the now, noticing the weight of your feet on the floor or your body on the surface. Carry this feeling with you for the rest of your day, reconnecting with it when you need to. When you are ready, you may slowly open your eyes. Okay. All right. So before we sign off, I just want to, I guess, restate something that I'd already stated about, we had some pretty heavy topics today. And if you have been triggered in any way, or if you feel affected by this particular session, please practice your self-care. Reach out and talk to somebody that you trust and feel safe with. Know that you're not alone. It's a heavy show. Okay. And Ivan, do you have any closing?
No, just take care of yourselves. And yes, I look forward to seeing you again next time.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Yes. Kate just showed me, this is the Indian Residential Schools Crisis Line that's available 24/7. 1-866-925-4419. And that's the Indian Residential Schools Crisis Line, in case anybody needs to contact them. Thank you, Kate. Okay, so we're going to sign off for today. We will be back next Wednesday, which will be June 9th. And we don't have our agenda planned yet, so I can't tell you what's coming up yet.
Yeah,
but,
it's Pride Month, so we may be talking about Pride, or
yeah, or
it
something
could
that
be
happens in between. Like
yes.
Yeah.
If something comes up that we give priority to, it'll be that.
Yes. Okay. Thank you again for being here with us. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.